Most of you guys know by now that I love challenges, and just recently I finished a 30-day island only using one color. And while I'm not going to be doing that exactly, I will be doing something that is just completely difficult and unnecessary. But hey, I love torturing myself and doing these challenges for your guys' entertainment. So without further ado, let's get into this challenge where I try to get a 3-star on my very first try. Unfortunately for me, that does mean I have to say goodbye to Sandy Blue. Walking along memory lane, saying goodbye to my beloved villagers, I walked my little tootsies up to the airport and said my last goodbye. Finally, a very new beginning where I get to restart and try my hands at something new. With the help of Timmy and Tommy, I put in my name, my birthday, and designed what I look like. With these 4 map layouts, the one that drew my eye the most was the one with the heart. Something about it, the simplicity, the cuteness of it, I had a good feeling about it. And as I soared through the sky, coming up to my destination at the airport, I was met with Rocket. Girl, what are you doing here? Get out of here! While I was disappointed, I did promise myself that I wanted to give this island a chance just to be a plain vanilla, which meant no Nintendo Online, no islands, and no cheating. So, whether I liked it or not, Rocket was here to stay until she asked to move off. The 3 of us went to resident services where Tommy gave us our tents. I placed mine by this little cute pond, while Rocket decided to place her house right in front of the airport. Very nice, very on brand, Rocket. And Jay following close behind. With that out of the way, Nook tasked me to collect branches and apples. I did so promptly because I'm good like that. Epic gamer moment! And with that, he lit the bonfire and came up with the brilliant idea of naming the wonderful island. I don't know why, I'm always stumped at this part. What do I even call this island, you know? And as I was doing my research, brainstorming for the perfect name to name this island, I came across Teletubbies. I don't know why my mind drifted to them, but it just made sense. The land, the sun baby. And as I typed in the name, I quickly found out that it couldn't fit. Okay, problem solving skills activate. Eventually, I did big brain this and thought to myself, oh, what better name than Starry Land? Listen, my creativity only runs so deep, okay? Spare me. Well, with that out of the way, Nook gave me my cot and I went to bed. The very next morning, I found myself in debt. Nice. So one of my goals now was to get 5,000 Nook miles to pay off my loans. And immediately, I got to work. I made a blank custom path, edited my passport photo, drew on my bulletin board. You guys ever see those, you did it stars? It's like a meme where it's like misspelled on purpose. Yeah, I don't know why I wanted to do it, but I just did. And not long after, I met up with Nook where he tasked me to build a fishing rod. I'm just gonna say it now, I hate it, okay? I suck at it. The fish just know that I'm trying to get them and they won't let me. But regardless, I caught myself some fish. Not before long, Jay gave me this hat. Very nice. Thank you. I promptly caught a lot of garbage by fishing. I'm telling you guys, the game just hates me. One of the achievements in the game is to basically decorate your island using 10 items. I didn't have 10 items. I had fish and I had my clothes on my back. So yeah, I used them. I don't think that's right, but I did it. I got naked for this. And after I collected all these fish, I went back to Nook to ask him, what are these silly little guys? It wasn't long before Blathers called him up and said, hey, can I come over? And I was like, yeah. So Nook gave me his tent and I placed it just outside, scurried back to him like a little cockroach. Told him I placed the tent and built myself some fishing rods. Yeah, I did go back fishing. It's just like, I couldn't help myself, you know? What did I expect though? Because I started collecting this trash pile. I mean, I do like collecting my little trash pile. An important thing in the game is that there's a point system for decorating your island. And this point system determines which star rating you're gonna get. In order for me to get 3 stars, I need at least 8 villagers, 160 to 399 points in development, and 270 to 349 points in scenery. Island development is basically the structures of the game, so the museum, the Nook's Cranny, the Able Sisters. It's also accounting for the decorations that you put on your island, and also bridges and inclines. Meanwhile, scenery is basically just plants. Just have plants. So I went to Timmy to buy a bunch of flower seeds, and by doing so I earned a bunch of Nook miles, just enough to finally pay off my loans. Like the money-hungry billionaire that he is, he asked me if I wanted to upgrade my house. I said yes. I couldn't help myself. In theme of my island, I chose the color yellow because of stars and, you know, my airport was yellow. And eventually, I saved my game and skipped to the very next day. What a beautiful morning it was where Nook announced that the airport was finally open. Not only that, but Blathers was coming to my island. Walked myself into resident services where Timmy and Tom were having a private discussion. I quickly butted in, asked them what was going on, and would you know, Timmy wants me to build the Nook's Cranny. In order to do so, I need to gather 30 of each wood, along with 30 iron nuggets. And because I was relying on my own hard work, I had to basically cut down a bunch of trees, a bunch of rocks. Normally, I would go to No Islands to gather all my resources for stuff like this, but I couldn't do that. And you know how I was rewarded? By getting stung. And you know what was even more embarrassing? Rocket was there to watch it. At least she was kind enough to give me a medicine recipe. And also she gave me the shovel, which was very useful for the game. So thank you, Rocket. Wow, it's almost like she could be nice. And to think my luck was turning around by finding this money rock, I cut down a wasp nest. And because I knew my fate was sealed, and I also wanted the Nook Mouse for it, I got stung. Quickly passing out and finding myself in the front of my house. You know what? Let's just go say hi to Blathers. And there he stood amongst his books and studies, where he gave me the DIY recipe for the vaulting pole and the shovel. I forgot to plant my flower seeds, so I promptly did that. And eventually, I used my vaulting pole to venture off into my island to discover what it looked like. I found some fossils, gave them back to Blathers so he could assess them. I did, however, keep them for myself because I was going to use the fossils to decorate my island with. I heard that this boosted your star rating quite a ton. And when there was nothing left for me to do, because I asked Tom Nook and he said there was literally nothing for me to do, I saved my game and quit to the next day. I had ordered myself some garden lanterns to decorate my villagers' houses with, and as I was doing my daily tasks, Jake came up to me and gave me some iron. Wow, thank you! Well, with that gave me all of the resources I need to build the Nook's Cranny. So I went back to Timmy, he gave me some items for completing his little quest. I wanted to check out the items for myself, so I went back inside my house. It was this blue wallpaper and just like a lantern in this little coat that I'm wearing. Very cute, very nice. And not long after, I went back outside to my island and I cleared out all my weeds. On the mainland anyways. Weeds in the game do affect the star rating quite a bit. If you have weeds, I think over 100 weeds, it negatively affects your star rating. I was kind of putting this off because I just don't. Please, no. But I thought if I did it now, then I wouldn't have to worry about it later. Crossing the river to the other side, I placed down the Nook's Cranny. I also picked up the weeds. I didn't have enough room in my storage just yet to put all my items in. Well, that's what I thought anyways. So I put like this little junk pile in front of my yard. And now we skip to the very next day. Baby Leaf is here on my island, which was very important because I needed tons of flowers. Not only that, but Tom Nook was talking on the phone and I overheard him say that some people were interested in moving on my island. After having placed on the Nook's Cranny the other day, I went and visited them and saw Sable, or Mabel. It's Mabel. Don't worry, Mabel. I kind of remember your name still. Soon after, I walked myself over to say hi to Leaf. Hi, Leaf. I bought myself a bunch of crops, planted them by my house, and also along with flowers. Once I was finished, I walked into resident services where Tom Nook talked to me about the whole, villager situation that I overheard, gave me a recipe to build a bridge, which I did and placed it across the river, where I met up with the Nooks and Cranny. Now with the bridge out of the way, Tom Nook handed me the 3 plots that I needed for the 3 villagers. One by one, I wrote down everything that I needed, crafted everything, and finished the plot. Went back to Tom Nook, told him everything was finished, and in turn for finishing all the plots, he gave me some fencing. Typically, I don't like the starting fence that he gives you in the game, but the fencing is actually important because it counts for the scenery. And because I had walked into the resident services, the plots had auto-filled. Plot 1, we have Broccolo. In plot 2, we have Miss Wendy. And in plot 3, we have our girl, Ava. Honestly, not bad for starters. On the very next day, I met up with Harvey. Unfortunately, I do not go to Harv's Island in this entire gameplay, so, see you in another lifetime, Harvey. I assessed more fossils. As you can see, my fossil collection is growing. I rearranged my crops and placed some fencing by it. Spoke to Tom Nook about the workshop that he had planned for me. Basically, I had to recolor wooden wardrobe, and because I was going for like a natural theme on my island, I just did brown. So, this is the part of the video where I would just like to say my recording suddenly went kaput. And I recorded for 2 hours. I lost 2 hours of footage. During that time, I got Isabel. My resident services upgraded. I got this wicked outfit. I feel like I'm in my grandma era or something. I also got the Able sisters to move on my island. I built another bridge. And on top of that, I built the campsite. And on top of that, we have a campsite villager. So yeah, a lot happened. And thank you, recording software, for crashing on me and losing 2 hours of my footage. But everything was made up for because Henry was my permanent villager that I had to take. Thank you, Animal Crossing gods, for blessing me with such a nice thing for once. So this was a blessing in disguise. I placed Henry's house on the tallest cliff by some water, because frog, water, yeah. I wanted to make Henry's house accessible, so I went back to Tom Nook to speak to him about building an incline. This won't last long, however, because I placed the incline a little to the left, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so this really bothered me. So of course I had to talk to Lloyd and be like, sorry my guy, goodbye. On top of that, I sold some land, placing it on the second layer of my island. And guess what, guys? It's time for our first ever villager hunt. Are we ready to see who it is? Walking along the path, we see our boy Sherb. I had Sherb on my 30 30-day island and I wanted someone new. So unfortunately, I said goodbye to Sherb, even though he will be loved and missed. And instead, I got Leopold. At first, I was like, this is a mistake. I should have just taken Sherb. But the more that I looked at him, the more I kind of fell in love with him. And because I didn't want to waste my Nook miles, I did in fact take him. I was still kind of on that high streak of getting new villagers, so I sold some more land, got myself another ticket, and off we went for another villager hunt. We landed on Money Rock Island where there was Monkey. This actually worked in my favor because I do need money and I don't have any other way but working hard for myself to earn that money. So nice, good on me. Skipping to the very next day, I went shopping for some supplies. And while I didn't really need to do this, I wanted to decorate my home. But before that, I spoke to Lloyd, paid off my loans, and decorated this cute little setup. Wasn't much, it's all I could work with, and turned it into a very cozy little home. Using some items that I got, I decorate my villagers' yards very sparingly. It's nothing to wow about, honestly. It's just to place items down for the points. On to the next day. Wendy taught my very first reaction, happiness. Thank you, Wendy. While I did want to go villager hunting, I wanted to save my Nook miles for future, so when I put the plot down, I wanted it to autofill on its own, but by doing so, I got Angus. I've said this before in the past, and I still stand by it, but he looks like Guy Fieri, and I can't unsee it. I just can't unsee it. Again, I went back to Tom Nook, sold some land, spent some Nook miles to get some Nook mile tickets, placed the house down just behind Leopold's and Angus's house, didn't go villager hunting, but instead I resorted into cleaning up the weeds. This took so long, I don't want to talk about it. So moving on, I sold a bunch of veggies, earned some more Nook miles, skipped to the next day, and there we have it. Pancatty is moving to our island. Honestly, I like Pancatty. Pancatty's cute. At this point in the video, I really just wanted to sell all my plots to get the 10 houses, and as I spoke to Tom Nook, I had in mind to move the museum as well, but I realized, and I've been told this before, you cannot move the museum if it's not upgraded. Yeah, so I had to basically upgrade it. I will work on that. On to villager hunting instead. Let's just try to cheer my mood up. Okay, that didn't help. Okay, this is better. Everyone, welcome Bill to my island. And back we go to Starry Land, where I had to assess some fossils and give them to Blathers in order to upgrade his tent. How about we build a ramp? Setting it up by the Nook's Cranny, I paid Lloyd off, went back to my beaches where all my fossils were. I took the duplicates and gave the rest to Blathers, where he finally announced that, yes, we are upgrading the museum, and I can no longer have the tent. Personally, I don't know if the tent actually matters or affects the star rating. I've only read that having Blathers on your island, just the building itself increases your points, but I wanted to move him to a specific spot on my island, so this was the point where I had enough money to spare and Rocket had to move, okay? Girl, why did you have to take up the space by the airport? Why? I wanted to give my villagers the freedom to just pick wherever they wanted to stay, but Rocket, girly, no. So the obvious choice to punish her was to exile her to the top of the cliff, where she will be staying there without an incline. I of course did some maintenance and picked up the weeds. Oh, and would you look at that? Daisy May's here. She is selling her turnips for 94 bells. You know what? It's cheap enough. I have some money to spare. Let's buy the stock. The very next day, I spoke to Tom Nook about building a bridge, and I placed it right by Broccolo's house. Okay, goodbye day. Red was on our island. Unfortunately, just like Harvey, this was the only and last time that I've ever spoke to him. It was nice while you were here, buddy. Onto my campsite, I decided to use some of the items that I got or crafted to decorate the front of it. Out of all the buildings, this is the most decorated plot. I really didn't put an effort into any of the decorations because I just wanted to put things down, get my points up, and get that star rating. I spoke to Tom Nook to move the museum over to the spot that I wanted. The very next day, I talked to Leaf about buying some potatoes and some flowers. My flower collection is growing, which is very nice. And again, I crawled back to Tom Nook to speak to him about moving Wendy's house. You know, I have to say, I have not talked to Tom Nook so many times in such a short amount of time as much as this video. He's feeling the love, I'm sure. On to the next day, we have a campsite villager. This is the second campsite villager we have other than Henry, and it's Petrie. I didn't want to focus too much attention on her, however. I just wanted to see like who she would want to kick off at first. Then I would just leave her in the campsite. Unfortunately, my girl asked for Bill to move off, and I said, nah, girl. I still kept in mind about the turnip pricing, and on this day, the turnips sold for 146 bells, which didn't make me a profit at all. I think I gained like 10 grand out of the 7 grand that I spent. Yeah, not worth it. I should have bought more, but I didn't have enough money. I went villager hunting, and guess who I found? Stu! Stu is such a cutie. He's so underrated, such a cutie patootie. I would invite him to Doodle Pup if I had the chance or the spot for him, but he can stay here on Starryland in the meantime. I gathered some apples and planted myself a little apple orchard just behind my home. I did plan to scoop my house back a little bit, but I didn't want to spend 10 grand on just moving my house just like an inch. Instead, I focused my attention on decorating the outside of the museum using some fossils. I actually completed one dino set, and it was my favorite dinosaur, the Spinosaurus. Wow, look at him! And there Stu was, house, moving in place of Broccolo's house. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys, Broccolo asked to move and I said yes. I paid off Lloyd, began cleaning up my island from all of its clutter and storing it inside my house, planted my potatoes, and extended my fencing. I'm a real farmer now. My father would be so proud of me. Placed the extra fencing that I had on hand around my island, bought myself tons and tons more flowers, and planted them in the cluster. I'm surprised I still have enough money to keep moving my villagers' houses because I did move Ava's house right in front of mine, used the spare decorations that I had on hand and just dropped it on the floor. Again, bought myself more flowers. I just wanted to make sure, guys, that I would get enough flowers for the star rating because I needed so many points for the scenery. Planted them just outside Nook's Cranny, spoke to our man Tom Nook, and eventually moved Jay's house onto the beach. I did want to move someone onto the beach as a permanent resident. I just didn't know who, so Jay was just kind of like my default. Sorry, Jay. And now, guys, it is time. It is time to know what our star rating is. After everything that I've done, after every incline, after every bridge, after every home I filled, this was our moment. This was our time. Isabel gazing out the window as I stare at her, watching like a hawk. If you do not give me this 3-star, I will cry. I plopped my little booty down into that chair, spoke to her, and she told me we had a 3-star! I was exhilarated, okay? I worked so hard, so many hours, 10 to be exact, including the 2 hours that I lost. I've never not looked at my star rating when I was trying to get KK Slider on my island. It was that constant nagging of, do I have a 3-star yet? But we did it. I persevered. I pushed myself, and we got a 3-star. The very next day, KK Slider came to my island, performed for us. I danced my little heart out. On top of that, Tom Nook came and visited me and finally gave me the cliff and waterscaping. With that, guys, we have completed this challenge. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys like this video, let me know. Also, if you guys want to see a 5-star island where I don't check the star rating until I got a 5-star, please don't ask me. Please don't. I suffered so much during this. I don't want to do it, but I'll do it if you ask me. Just don't. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday. And if it's not your birthday today, happy day. I will see you guys in the next one. Love y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.